Hi.
Hello, I'm Soldier Boy. Fuck, the world knows who I am. Why do I have to say it?
This is basically just all the parts of this what if that make up phase 1 of the MCU. By the way, I mentioned the MCU timeline guy a bit of everything, and he actually commented on the Iron Man part of the series, which is neat. This what if didn't start out great, but overall did good by the end, which I mainly attribute to marketing Hulk as a versus battle. People went to watch part 1 after that. Anyway, I probably won't do phase 2 until VOD Rising comes out. I've heard a lot of people complaining about the VOD Rising setup in Season 5, but to be honest, I'm looking forward to it. I know I've only done one other video on The Boys, and it was requested, but since the 5th and final season is coming out, I wanted to do something related to The Boys. Basically, even if Steve Rogers exists in this world, he never does anything important.
He said I was a disappointment. Not good enough to carry his name. So I went to his golf buddies in the War Department, and they got me into Dr. Vought's Compound V trials.
In this scenario, Dr. Erskine isn't allowed to pick who he wants and instead must go with the government's choice of Ben. The super soldier serum will, of course, work like Compound V, giving Ben the same powers.
But more important, the men. The serum amplifies everything that is inside, so good becomes great. Bad becomes worse.
And you might want to gargle my ballsack.
Since he can absorb radiation, he would have his radiation blast due to absorbing the Vita rays. I think he'd lose control and immediately fire a blast, killing both the Nazi spy and Dr. Erskine, which kind of sums up Ben pretty well. He will then become a propaganda tool just like Steve, except Ben will love it. He doesn't know who Bucky is and has no reason to save him, so Bucky and the Howling Commandos die in the POW camp. Despite Ben never going rogue, he has something Steve doesn't, and that's that he's completely fucking bulletproof. So when Hydra starts pulling out tanks powered by the Tesseract, the government will most likely send in Soldier Boy, meaning Ben actually gets to take part in D-Day and storms Normandy. Hydra doesn't really stand a chance against Ben. He's just going to bulldoze through them. He either kills Red Skull before he can get to the plane, or just blows it up before it can take off and tosses the Tesseract case to Peggy while saying a sexist one-liner. He would save the day and actually be a war hero. Since other soups don't exist, April 28th would be Soldier Boy Day. Not that his father would care.
You're a fucking disappointment.
I'll basically cover everything leading up to Iron Man that's affected by Ben real quick. Soldier Boy would still do things like spray a fire hose on the 1963 Birmingham protests, massacre several anti-war demonstrators during the 1970 Kent State shootings. Bucky's dead, so he never becomes Winter Soldier, but since the legend said Ben shot JFK, Hydra inside S.H.I.E.L.D. could probably just get Ben to do it. I feel like Howard and Ben would have been friends since they were both rich party guys in the 40s. Maybe they even went to boarding school together. So, when Tony is born, Soldier Boy would be like his cool uncle. This means the MCU finally has an Uncle Ben, one who will teach Tony.
With great power.
Great responsibility?
I was going to stick with bitches, but if you want to be a virgin for the rest of your life,
I don't think Hydra could get Ben to kill Howard, since Ben's all about honor and loyalty. This means Hydra doesn't get the super soldier serum Howard made, but since the serum's already worse than Steve's and they're trying to recreate Ben, it would be seen as a failure. Howard was already in his 70s when he died, so he's probably still dead by Iron Man 1. I could see Soldier Boy being Tony's military liaison instead of Rhodey, and because Tony wouldn't see him as a buzzkill, Ben would be in his Humvee when the Ten Rings attack. I'm assuming Obadiah would still want to steal the company. I think this just kind of goes the same as what if Killmonger saved Iron Man. Soldier Boy kills all the terrorists, and they go home with Tony getting zero character development, remaining the Merchant of Death. Yinsen dies in captivity. Coulson will still want to debrief and eventually figure out it was Obadiah's plan. When Ben learns Obadiah tried to kill the closest thing he's ever had to a son, he'll have one reaction. Also, random thing, but is anyone else disappointed they've never used that song in the show? Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk both actually take place during Fury's big week, so I'd just like to clarify that yes, Soldier Boy can be in both. Everything at Monaco happens before day one of Fury's big week. Iron Man's birthday, which is the 29th of May, is day one of Fury's big week, and the university battle from The Incredible Hulk happens on day 5. The YouTube channel A Bit of Everything goes into a lot of detail on the MCU. I'll put a link in the description to that video, but if you're curious about the MCU timeline, he covers the whole thing. So, Whiplash should still want revenge on Tony and attack the race. Since Tony isn't dying, he'd stay at the bar with Elon Musk. Whiplash didn't know Tony would be in the race, so presumably he'll still attack the race. Soldier Boy would see this on the TV and go to the race to fight him because obviously Tony would invite him to Monaco, and I think it's pretty obvious he'd beat Whiplash. But unlike Tony, I think he'd just cave his head in. Unlike in the normal MCU where people were horrified by Walker killing a terrorist, I think because this world has been shaped by Soldier Boy as its one and only hero, that they'd have the same reaction of Homelander killing a protester.
Yeah! 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 All right!
Tony would definitely be interested by Whiplash's arc reactor. Hammer would still want rid of Tony, but without Whiplash he doesn't have anything to act on. I think since we see Tony make a drone in What If Killmonger Saved Iron Man, that Whiplash's arc reactor would inspire Tony to create the Iron Legion, which he would unveil as the big finale at the Stark Expo, wanting to sell them to the military. After this is when I think Nick Fury would pay him a visit to ask him the big question.
Nick Fury, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Okay, so part 3 of the What If is basically just a versus battle. Essentially, everything would go the same way until Blonsky gets injected with the super soldier serum. But instead of Ross injecting him with a version of the serum that's worse than the one Captain America had, he just calls in Soldier Boy, because why wouldn't he call in Soldier Boy for a situation like this? This means we get Soldier Boy versus Hulk at the university campus. I'll start with Hulk since it's his movie. At the end of the film, he jumps out a helicopter. Which is 1,986,800.5 joules, wall level. He's uninjured by a helicopter explosion, which is 3.47 million joules, wall level. Abomination hits Hulk through a wall, which would be 3,951,789.36 joules, wall level. He's pretty consistently wall. I didn't find anything that gets him higher. For speed, Abomination can catch a missile which is 230 meters per second, subsonic plus. Hulk's thunderclap creates a sonic boom which would be transonic. Obviously, he gets stronger in later movies, but this is the Incredible Hulk, not Avengers Hulk. Now onto Soldier Boy. He scales to Homelander even if he's slightly weaker. Homelander was uninjured by a chemical plant explosion, which is 289.30 tons of TNT, multi-city block level. He gets higher with statements, Edgar says.
Below, layers of zinc-reinforced concrete, safe from X-ray vision or anyone with the power of a neutron bomb.
With a neutron bomb being 1 to 10 kilotons, small town-to-town level. Stillwell also says,
He doesn't have any weakness.
No.
There isn't a weapon on Earth that they haven't thrown at him. They've all failed.
and Butcher says about the gun that supposedly killed Soldier Boy.
What's PCO read?
You believe the rumors, it's the thing that killed Soldier Boy. Some kind of gun or weapon or something.
Had to have been a fucking H-bomb. It was nearly as strong as...
The strongest hydrogen bomb is the Tsar Bomba, which was 100 megatons. Mountain level before getting nerfed to 50 megatons. City level. His radiation blast is 660 for 0.40573 tons of TNT. Multi-city block level. For speed, Homelander saves Butcher from a C4 explosion, which is Mach 18.2, hypersonic plus. Homelander also says,
From up here. I'll give you that. You should see it from space.
with the idea he can go to space getting backed up in Season 5.
How are you gonna get it in front of him? Homelander hasn't been seen outside of the tower in days, which means he's probably scared of getting infected. And if you release this thing, he just flies up into fucking space until it's all over, right?
With it being Mach 33 to escape Earth's gravity. There's also relativistic and faster than light stuff, but I think it's already pretty clear Soldier Boy would win. Since Hulk is the result of a failed super soldier experiment, Soldier Boy should actually be able to depower him with the radiation blast. After losing the fight, Bruce would be taken into custody and interrogated. He would most likely tell them about Mr. Blue, leading to Ross arresting the leader, although since he'd never get any gamma blood in a head wound, he'd just stay a normal human. By the way, random thing, but this is now the most voted poll on the channel, which I find kind of funny since people didn't really watch the actual video. This is the first time a poll has had more views than the video it's meant to promote. We're now at the finale of Phase 1, Avengers Assemble.
Avengers? I beat my meat into a cup.
If you're wondering where the Thor part is, well, Soldier Boy has no reason to show up in that movie, and the events of it ultimately just go the same. Fury would recruit Soldier Boy, Coulson would recruit Tony for his Iron Legion, and Black Widow would offer Bruce a deal where he'd be released in exchange for helping find the Tesseract by tracking the Gamma. By the way, when Ben meets Natasha, he's totally going to hit on her, and when she rebuffs him, he'll probably call her a commie dyke. Coulson would meet Soldier Boy, learning that you never want to meet your heroes.
Man, I missed Benny's. That's how we won D-Day, you know. We were wired to the fucking gills.
Soldier Boy would be sent in to stop Loki just like Cap, which means it's time for some power scaling. Loki's best feat at this point is being uninjured by the Rainbow Bridge explosion. Which is 117.0 for 731,339 tons of TNT, multi-city block level. So even at the low end of 1 kiloton small town, he's still stronger. Now Loki does fight Thor, but it's pretty obvious that Thor's holding back against his brother like how he held back against Iron Man. I know there's a databook statement saying Thor used the full force of his lightning against Iron Man. But those databooks also claim Quicksilver is the speed of light.
It's bullshit. It doesn't even make sense.
So they're proven to be unreliable. Iron Man also can't break through the Leviathan's armor. Hulk punching a Leviathan is at the most 101.5 for 73088 for 3 for 6807 tons of TNT, multi-city block level. We see Thor one-shot Leviathans with his lightning. Also, Soldier Boy would actually be strong enough to one-shot one if he wanted. Anyway, Loki wants to be captured, so all this means right now is that Ben doesn't need help from the Iron Legion. Thor would show up to take Loki and Ben would try to stop him like Iron Man, leading to a fight. Thor's best feat by this point is creating an earthquake. Which is 39.567 teratons of TNT, country level. In comparison, Butcher says this about Soldier Boy.
What's BCL Red?
You believe the rumors, it's the thing that killed Soldier Boy. Some kind of gun or weapon or something.
Had to have been a fucking H-bomb. It was nearly as strong as...
At most it takes 100 megatons, mountain level, to one-shot Ben, even with his vibranium shield, and help from the Iron Legion. Ben's going to lose. Black Widow would find Ben getting his ass kicked funny, and eventually they'd take Loki to the helicarrier. Bruce would actually be grateful to Ben for curing him of the Hulk, but since Thor just bruised his ego, he'll probably bully Bruce. Brainwashed Hawkeye would attack, and since Hulk doesn't go on a rampage, Thor and Widow could help from the start. There's also a dozen or so Iron Legion drones fighting. But for the sake of the climax, let's say Coulson still dies and Loki escapes. At the Battle of New York, Soldier Boy's game plan would probably be something like: Tony, have your drones fight the small fry. Blondie, why don't you have your hammer jerk you off into the sky to deal with the big fish, Kami and the Robin Hood wannabe on the end of her strap-on. Clear out the civvies. I'm going for the home run. Soldier Boy is always shown to be very mission-orientated, so I feel like he'd ignore the battle and just go straight to Stark Tower. We've established Ben beats Loki, who would probably run away from him on a flying bike. If Loki drops the scepter, Selvig can tell Ben about the failsafe, but if not, Ben will just default to the plan of blowing it up with his radiation blast. Hydra might not have time to try and nuke New York, but if they do, Tony would still be on the helicarrier and can just call a drone to intercept it, either stopping the jet or blowing up the nuke at sea. Ultimately, the Chitauri would get defeated and Loki captured and taken back to Asgard. Well, that's the end of Phase 1. Goodbye.